Hello and welcome. This is a short video lecture for college seminar on time management. So without further ado, why don't I get right into it? As you probably have already experienced, whether in this course or in life in general, we live in a culture where time management is a serious difficulty for most people because we live in a culture that's always making all kinds of demands on our time in a number of different ways, whether it's because you've got to work two jobs, whether it's because your smartphone is giving you constant notifications. There's always somebody around who wants some of our time. And so when you're trying to do something like get a college degree, the way you manage your time is an extremely, extremely important factor. For almost every first-year college student, there's going to be some kind of rude awakening where you realize that you're really going to have to manage your time in a way that you have never kind of done so before. And so at the same time, I know many of you have kids, and so I'm sure that you have pretty advanced time management skills to take care of all your duties for your kids and your work and everything else you do. But I think it's important to be very intentional and to reflect on time management in this course because of how crucial it is to doing well in college. And so the first thing to talk about is thinking about, for each task, two things. Number one, how important is it? And number two, how urgent is it? And so importance is kind of obvious. Does this really matter or does it not matter? Like I said, we have all these things in our life that make demands on our time, and a lot of them really aren't important. Checking social media is not really important. Watching Netflix or cat videos, not really important. Getting work done in college, super important. What's even more important, if you have kids, taking care of your kid. If you have a job, going to work. So what makes it so challenging is because for most of you, schoolwork's not always going to be the most important thing in your life. And so that means you've really got to find time to get the schoolwork done when you've got other things that are in fact more important. So, I'll be the first one to acknowledge taking care of your kid more important than schoolwork. That doesn't mean that you're excused from the schoolwork, unfortunately. It means that you've got to figure out a plan to find the time to get it done. And then urgency, when do things need to get done? We'll talk about having a more long-term schedule so that you can think about how to give yourself time to get things done so that those deadlines don't just creep up on you and overwhelm you. So anyway, when we have limited time, it's really important to think about these tasks and which ones are important, which ones are urgent, and then, which ones do we need to get done first? How can we start managing our workload so that we feel good about getting things done? And so kind of self-evident, but you've got urgent, not urgent, important, not important. So urgent and important, you've got important due dates, deadlines you've got to meet. You have crises and all these kinds of things. Taking care of children, I'm sure you have all kinds of important and urgent things to come up that you've just got to deal with. And then you've got urgent and not important. So these are the things that creep up in your life where people are asking for your time. And so according to them, they're urgent. According to you, they might not be that important. And so we get these emails, these notifications, these interruptions, all this kind of thing. Sometimes you have to be able to realize, which ones are important, which ones are maybe not that important, because you have limited time to work with. Okay, and so important and not urgent. So these are more the long-term types of personal development things. They are important, but they're not things that, you necessarily need to get done every day. If you have too much work to do, you might not, exercise on a given day. It's not the end of the world, as long as overall you're trying to take care of yourself, and so you've got those important, not urgent things, and then you've got not urgent and not important things, all those little distractions, time wasters, all this kind of stuff. We live in a world that's just overflowing with not important, not urgent things to do with our smartphones. We could, spend all eternity on our smartphones doing not urgent, not important things. So, for every task, for everything that comes up, trying to decide for yourself where does it fall in those quadrants, and identifying which ones are important and urgent first. Really important. So, once you've thought about how to evaluate every task that comes up and prioritize according to which ones are important and urgent, the next thing to do is start thinking about how you'll actually manage your time. And the first thing I'll mention is it's really important to have a weekly calendar. For how busy you all are, what's really crucial is that you have a weekly routine where you know which blocks of time in that weekly routine you're free to get college work done. Like I said, college work's not always going to be your most important task, especially if you have children. So this means we've got to find, that free time every week to get things done, and to have a routine schedule to make it a habit getting these things done. And so the example down there just says, if you're free on these given days and you have work for a given course that's due on given days, you can just say, okay, Mondays I'm working on A&P every week. Wednesdays I'm working on A&P every week. And you get into that routine, and then, you got a schedule, you've got a routine, and it's something you don't even have to think about anymore. So when we do the activity, this is one thing you'll do, is just plot out your weekly schedule. I'm somewhat daunted when I read your schedules, because with childcare and work and everything, I don't know how you all do it. Kudos to you for all the hard work you do. But this is why it's so important to think about time management, because many of us, we just have a lot going on. So we've got to squeeze out those hours and those minutes, to get work done. So you've got your weekly routine. Another important facet of managing your time effectively is you've got to have a bigger calendar, a bigger plan. And for, college, I would say you should have a semester-long kind of calendar. You can use different things. You could use a wall calendar. You could use your Gmail calendar, your smartphone calendar, and you can link these together, whatever it might be. But the reason why it's so crucial to have that long-term calendar, especially in college, is because what's inevitably going to happen is especially when it comes to midterm and finals weeks, you're going to have multiple big things due. You're going to have multiple exams that are really important. You're going to have multiple projects that are really important. And what happens is, if you wait to that week when everything is due, there will not be enough hours in the day to get everything done. And I promise you this is going to happen. It's probably going to happen every semester at about midterm and finals weeks. So what do? Well, when you get your syllabus on the first day, hopefully all your big due dates are on there. And so you can sit down with all your syllabi, and you can have your calendar open, and you can start to plug in those major due dates into the big semester-long monthly calendar, so you can get a bird's eye view of what the whole semester is going to look like for you. Once you have a bird's eye view of what the whole semester is going to look like for you, you can start to make a plan for how you're going to get everything done. Because I guarantee you, at some point, you're going to have to start things much earlier than the week before they're due. When we talk about study skills, we're going to talk about how, especially for these exams that are difficult and courses that are difficult, you've got to give yourself at the bare minimum 1 week to study for those. If you've got a big research project, you've got to give yourself at bare minimum 1 week to prepare for those. And so what if I have a research paper and a big exam due on the same week? Well, that means I've got to plot out 2 weeks, because I need 1 week for one and 1 week for the other. So this is why it's so crucial. I promise you this is going to come up in college, where you're going to have things planned out on this more long-term type of schedule. This is true also for anyone in life and in the professional world. If you have kids, I'm sure you've got to keep all your kids' things in your schedule as well. And so I'm sure you're kind of aware of these things. But I'll tell you this, in college, first day of the semester, hopefully you have all your due dates. You got to put them into a calendar so that you can start to plan everything out. It's a crucial, critical thing to do. Okay, and finally, so what have we talked about so far? We've talked about prioritizing tasks. We've talked about your weekly schedule, finding that time every week where you're getting work done, your semester-long plan where you're managing the big projects. And so once you have all those things done, then kind of week by week, day by day, you can sit down and make a to-do list. I'm sure you all already do to-do list. I don't need to explain to you what it is. But the one thing I'll say about to-do lists and motivation, first of all, the to-do list is there to prioritize your tasks on a given day. I've got this much time. These are the urgent tasks. Let me make sure I'm getting the urgent tasks done. Pretty simple. I'm sure you do it already. What I'll say about this to-do list is this. We know in psychology, like in research, when we have these short-term goals and we get them done, we get a kind of like a rush of dopamine in our brain, and dopamine makes you feel good. And so people who are really productive, they find a good rhythm, a good flow, where they have their to-do list, which to-do lists are essentially a to-do list is just a list of very short-term goals. You start to check off your short-term goals. It feels good to check it off, and it really does feel good. I mean, I do this every day. I can show you my list from last week or from yesterday in a minute. But yeah, you prioritize a task, you're getting done what needs to get done, and it feels good, and you feel good about it. And this is kind of what propels you forward to getting more stuff done. Getting things done, you're feeling good about it, you're not overwhelmed, you're getting the most urgent things done first so that you're not freaking out about it at the last minute. And then we feel good about it. And having that good feeling is so important. I'll just show you mine from yesterday. I don't know if you can see it in there. It's my to-do list from yesterday. It's a whole page long. I got through all of it, but I'll tell you, it felt pretty darn good to just cross those things off. We know in psychology research, there's a reason for that. Achieving those short-term goals gives us a good shot of dopamine, which motivates us even more. And so on the opposite end of motivation is procrastination. And this is the total opposite. And this is what you've got to do everything in your power to get out of the habit of procrastinating. If you're a procrastinator, and I think everybody in a certain sense is a procrastinator. I can only imagine myself in high school and how terrible I was with procrastination. We all probably come from a place where we procrastinate. And learning how to manage our time and make effective use of our time, it's one of these soft skills that you really do develop with practice. And, this is one of the soft skills that college really teaches you, because you're going to have to manage your time in a way that you may not have done so in the past. But in getting your college degree, this is one of the skills people have. They have this ability to have the self-discipline and the time management skills to be extremely productive. That's one of the things your college degree says about you as a person. This person knows how to manage their time. They have the discipline to get things done. So you all know what procrastination is. Something needs to be done. You don't do it. But then, it's the opposite of that good feeling you get when you're crossing things off your list. It makes you feel bad. And so when you feel bad about things, it's even harder to get started. And you all know how that goes, right? So this is why it's so important. Prioritize your tasks. Make a to-do list and start checking things off, even if it's really simple. For myself, I'll put really simple tasks on my to-do list. Could be I got to email this student. Okay, that email took me 30 seconds, not a big deal. Now it's done with, now I move on to the next one. Now I'm feeling good because I'm working, I'm getting things done. In psychology, they talk about a flow state. And a flow state is just that. When you're in the business of getting things done, and you're taking care of business, and you're checking things off that list, even if the work isn't the most interesting to you, you feel good about it because you know that you're taking care of business. So overall, with time management, I'll leave you with these thoughts. You've got to think about those short-term and long-term schedules. You've got to have, your weekly routines. I'm sure you're all going to have to try to find, time here and time there, where you can get things done. And another thing I'll say is it's also important to have time for yourself. We all need to recharge the batteries as well. But you have that weekly time to get things done. You have your big picture of the whole semester, so you know when you've got to get certain things started. And then you've got your daily or weekly to-do list of all the tasks that need to be done that week. And if you can bring all these things together, and if you can sit down and avoid distractions and get work done, then you get into the habit of being productive. And I'm sure many of you are already in the habit of being productive. But if you're not, or if you struggle with that, that's something this semester that you really want to do. You want to develop a habit of being productive. And I'll say the way you develop this habit and make it a habit is by kind of tricking yourself into just feeling positive about getting the work done. And it's as simple as having that to-do list, getting work done, crossing things off the to-do list. It all kind of snowballs in a good way. So I'll leave you there, and we will be in touch shortly.